So welcome to part 2 of the video series I'm doing on helping people to produce labs which are for learning purposes. So in the first lab, what I went through is just how to kind of get something set up, and in this part 2 we're going to be looking at the policies which allow the Active Directory, and also we'll cover the NAT and PAT rule. And just to go through really what's happening with this, we've got a Windows server over on the data center, and we've got a Windows client over here on the users zone. And initially, what happens with the computers over here is that they are going to be requesting a DHCP address from the Windows server. So that's important to have, because what happens is we are going to be tracking the users and also their IP addresses, and the idea is to get some data from the Palo Alto, so that will allow the IP addresses and the users to be tracked. So the first thing is the DHCP, and after that we do log in to the Windows server on the Windows 10 clients, so that's going to be tracked as well. So there is some policy which we need to put on the Palo Alto here, which will allow that to happen. And so I'll go through those policies with you and put it on the website and a link down below as well, so that you've got some way of looking initially how to get things to work through the Palo on the policies. There's also the router setup. I'll perhaps go into the router setup at a later time, because at the moment it's all working on kind of static routing, and I want to sort of introduce some dynamic routing, OSPF perhaps, into the labs a bit later on. So that's the Active Directory, kind of something that I want to go through with you, and I'll show you some screenshots and as well. And another thing what I want to do is just go through this NAT PAT configuration I've got set up here. What happens is the clients on the user's side will go through into the interface here for the outside connection to the internet. What happens is my router provides the Palo with a IP address, which is also an internal IP address, so it gets natted out at this area here. But we also are working on a private address scheme here, so we need to NAT and PAT it out again for it to work. So I'll go through with you these sort of details, and we'll just discuss it in a little bit more depth as we go through. So let's move on now to have a look at the Palo Alto, and let's talk about the config that we've got set up there. So let's first look at the security policy that we've got to allow the Active Directory to allow the logging on to the Active Directory. So what here I've got it down as Net Services Active Directory. So you can sort of set this up just for your own sort of benefit really, and name it what you like. And you'll notice I've got the tags for the data center and the users, which ties it all up as a zone. And if you look at this is the security policy. I've got the source zone is the users and the data center zone, and the users, I could lock it down even further by adding the PAN users I've got, but at the moment I'm just kind of making it work, so I've not locked it down just at the moment. So the destination is the data center and the users, so that allows traffic backwards and forwards, application, I've got Active Directory here, so I'm going to go into this with you a little bit further. This is the Active Directory application group configuration, so I'll talk about this in a second. And the services is standard, and I'm making sure that I'm allowing that to traverse through the network. So let's go back and have a look at this objects and an application group. So I built up that application group, and this is the group that I defined it as. It's called Active Directory. So these are all the application allowances that you've got to have in the application group. You could add them in individually. It's just a nice way of collecting all the ones that you're going to need into one kind of policy rule. So I think I'll put these down for you on the website that you need to have in that application group as a security kind of allowing. Maybe we could lock this down a little bit further, but for now let's get it working and let's lock it down later, and let's see if we can knock some of these off that aren't needed. So the net BIOS probably isn't going to be used, but for the moment I'm allowing it to go through, and then we'll lock it down later. So that's the application groups, and you can also build address groups as well. So if you wanted to build a series of collection of addresses, you could use the same idea. So in here I've got the addresses, and in here I've got the addresses group. So if I go into the users group, I've got the interface and the subnet and the users. Probably this is the switch, which has got some addresses there. You could build up that, and it's a way of collecting like a snapshot of what's happening in your network. So that's a run through of the policies now. So I'll put all those in the website and put the link to it down below. And so the NAT and PAT rule now. So let's have a look at the Palo Alto and see what's happening on there regarding the NAT and PAT rule. So over on the device here, going to the policies, and it's the NAT rule. So here I've got the NAT rule, which is allowing the NAT and PAT to go through that interface. So I've got a description here called the Internet and NAT, and the original packet is going from the user's zone, but it's sort of being originated as well from the outside zone. It's kind of I find it better to put both there because you're allowing that NAT rule to happen. So the destination zone it's going to the outside zone, so you can pop that over on the destination zone, and the destination interface is the ETH1/1. So the translated packet is going to be the dynamic IP import, and the interface address is the address type, and the interface is 1/1. So that's how that NAT sort of gets traversed through the firewall, and I'll put that all on the documentation as well in the link down below. So I think that kind of completes this sort of part 2, and it's probably better for you that I just show you the screenshots and go through with you that. It's you have to build these labs up, and sometimes you get them wrong, and sometimes things don't work, and you have to go backtracking. So it's probably better I walk through those with you. So if you can give me a like, thank you very much, and give me a thumbs up, and have a look on the website and the link below if you need to clarify how to sort of configure the firewall. And come back and see me in the next part. Thank you.